guys, my name is Michelle and I'm a volunteer here at Colorado Wolf and Wildlife Center.
And my name's Cameron and I'm also a volunteer here at the Wolf and Wildlife Center.
And if you haven't already noticed, we did get 2 new wolf puppies. And this is Isa and this is Raksha. And they are both Arctic wolves. Now, and as you can see, they have some brotherly love going on for each other. They are 6 weeks old, or 7 weeks old. And they came to us from a breeder in Texas who breeds very socialized animals, so we're hoping that they'll become our ambassador wolves.
Hi. Although not like that. Don't worry guys, they're not in any pain, they're just reinforcing that social hierarchy even at this young age, learning how to be proper adult wolves. In fact, Raksha was actually stalking Isa just a few minutes ago. All across these little tall grasses we've got here, so he's going to be quite the adult wolf. Hi, mister.
Hey, stop squirming.
So guys, as Michelle said, these are going to be our new ambassador wolves. At least we hope so. And as she also mentioned, they are Arctic wolves, so it gives us a chance to talk to you today about some pretty cool things, pretty cool features that make Arctic wolves able to live in those inhospitable Arctic conditions. Yes, I know, my hair is just so interesting, isn't it, Mr. Boy? Hi, buddy. They're in a very playful mood this afternoon. Now guys, I'm not sure if you are able to see, but they've got this thick underlying layer of fur, and above that they've got these long guard hairs. Now on these pure Arctic wolves, many of these guard hairs are actually going to be hollow. These hollow guard hairs are actually waterproof, and they're going to wick away your snow, your ice, and your rain, keep these guys from contracting hypothermia, getting soaked. And then of course under those long, hollow, wiry guard hairs, you're going to have that thick insulating layer of fur, as I mentioned. And that thick insulating layer, just like this, whereas a pet Raksha on his side here, well, that's going to keep him nice and cozy and comfortable. It's actually how these Arctic wolves are able to survive temperatures of -70°F, so pretty cool, and they're very much adapted to live in those inhospitable Arctic conditions. Now I know it's tough to see here because these guys are still little pups and they haven't quite grown in to these ears, but in fact, Arctic wolves, when they are fully grown, in proportion to that large body size, they're going to have smaller ears. This is of course because those smaller ears help them to retain body heat, whereas with the smaller subspecies of wolf, like the Mexican gray wolf, an animal that spends much of its time on those high deserts where it gets very hot in the spring and the summer, well, they have very large ears in proportion to the rest of their body. Of course, those larger ears help them to emit their body heat, stay a lot cooler, whereas these guys, they'll have smaller ears in proportion to that large body heat to retain. Guys, it's all about heat retention for these Arctics. In fact, these pure Arctic wolves, they're actually going to have black skin like polar bears. This is of course just like when we wear black jeans or a black t-shirt. That black skin helps to retain that solar energy, keep them a lot warmer. Again, it's all about the heat retention for them. Michelle, you want to take over here and show them those little pawsies?
So even their paw pads are actually black, and all wolves, high content wolf dogs, will have black paw pads. Now, the interesting thing about Arctic wolves too is that even their toenails are white, whereas your timber wolves will have black toenails. Now, these guys, since they're puppies, they will have the white toenails even if they were regular timber wolves, but usually as they start to grow up, their toenails will turn black. Now, you might not notice because they're kind of far away from the camera, but right now their eyes are still a really dark blue. Stop struggling. Their eyes are really dark blue, but over the next couple months, their eyes will turn to a nice golden or amber color, just like all the other wolves here. Now, you might be wondering if they're both Arctic wolves, why Raksha is not white like Isa. And Isa is actually the odd one out here. Wolves of all species or all subspecies are actually born a very dark brown to a black. So Isa, unfortunately, was born white, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's very, very uncommon. Whereas Raksha, he was born very dark brown, like a normal Arctic wolf, and you can see that he's already getting white along his face, and over the next couple months, he's going to turn pure white, just like Raksha.
You meet your Raksha. Hi there. And yep, guys, you do see he's got this kind of, you know, tannish, grayish coat. A lot of that kind of matches the color of the vegetation as well as the dirt there. So when they do have this kind of coloration and phasing as pups, it certainly helps them to maintain that camouflage. Of course, life up there on the tundra and the Arctic steppe is very, very difficult for these guys. So this camouflage coat just improves their chances of survival, of staying camouflaged and away from predators and hidden from predators even more so. Now guys, these Arctic tundra wolves, like all wolves, they're going to travel. They're going to travel miles upon miles in a single day. In fact, these Arctic and tundras, they can even travel 60 and 70 miles in a single day. They follow those muskox herds. And of course, up there on the Arctic steppe, where food is fewer and farther in between, that's why they have to travel a lot longer. Whereas where most of your other subspecies, your subspecies of gray wolf, of course, where the food is more abundant, say at Yellowstone National Park or across Idaho and Montana, they're still going to travel long distances, around 20-30 miles in a single day, but it's going to be nothing like these Arctic wolves can do. Guys, if any of you all have seen that Frozen Planet miniseries, BBC produced that. It's actually out on Netflix right now. I highly encourage you to watch it. You will see these Arctic wolves, they are featured, and of course, you will see that they're traveling that 60 miles a day, following the muskox herds, as the adult Arctics are trying to provide for their pups, much like Raksha. And he's here. Hi, sweetie. Hi. Hi, guys. And if you can see their teeth in here, guys, they still, even at this young age, they've got those powerful teeth and that powerful jaw. They're going to have that 1,500 pounds of biting pressure per square inch once they become fully grown. These guys are incredibly powerful animals. Now guys, most people are actually surprised to hear this. You would think that Arctic wolves, with that beautiful white coat, they're actually struggling a lot more than maybe some of your other subspecies of wolf. But luckily, because they live up in those inhospitable Arctic conditions, there's less people around. So, less people leads to less conflict, and although there are fewer, scarcer prey sources, they're still able to adapt and survive, and their future's looking a lot more bright, a lot more positive than many of those other subspecies of wolf who have to coexist with human settlement. Of course, because the Arctics are not used to humans and are not used to coexisting with us, when they actually do come across humans, it has actually been reported that Arctic wolves have approached them before. They are very curious and very gentle animals. All wolves are. In fact, when Lewis and Clark explored the Louisiana Purchase in the early 1800s, they were counted in their journals and their diaries, viewing thousands and thousands of wolves. And every time they saw these wolves, they came very close, but they did not attack them. They did not attempt to harm them. They were simply curious. They were simply very, very inquisitive and intuitive, wondering what was going on. So these Arctics, who don't have that natural innate fear of humans like many other wolves and subspecies have, simply because they've been hunted for so very long, they're very inquisitive, very intuitive, and they will approach human settlers or explorers or scientists there. Of course, this can also be a hindrance to them, as many of these people could possibly be poachers, could possibly be hunters, and they realize how beautiful these Arctic wolf coats are, and they kill these animals. But no guys, they are a very beautiful and incredible wolf, and we're really lucky to have these two sweet boys here.
So Raksha and Isa will not stay this small for very long. Wolves will reach 80% of their adult size in the first 6 months of life. So I recommend, if you guys want to see them when they're this little, they are still in the visitor center right now. They're going to be moving out very soon because they grow up very fast, and they'll be ending up with Kikoa and Sakara for a little while, probably before they get their own enclosure together. And so visit us. You can visit our website. It's tours at it's wolfeducation.org. The email is tours@wolfeducation.org. And our phone number is 719-687-9742. And you guys can come out and visit us, and we'd be happy to see you all.
And I'm sure these pups would be happy to see you too. Come out and support these guys, support all our wolves. Keep in mind, guys, yeah, just as Michelle said, they're not going to stay this small for very long. In fact, the Arctic wolves, they're going to be one of your larger wolves when they become fully grown. In fact, one of our Arctics here, who's a little bit older, Arctic Timber Cross Shumka, part timber, part Arctic. In fact, in his prime, he was around 140 pounds. So these guys are definitely going to get up there in size and in muscle. But what they lack in that size right now, they more than make up for, as you can see, with personality. You might have noticed that Raksha, his eyes have been panning up here. We've had a few vultures fly by. We also have some magpies and ravens as well, and he's very, very curious, just like all these wolves are. Very curious as to what those ravens and magpies are up to. Mr. Boy.
All right, so thanks guys so much for checking in and watching this week's weekly wolf vlog, and we'll see you guys next week.
All right, thanks so much, guys. Have a good one.